Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. So the season's new trailer was launched early by accident. And now we know what's going to be happening. Not quite what Bungie intended. If you were intending to remain unspoiled, then I've delayed the launch of this video to the point at which you would have normally seen the trailer according to Bungie's original plan anyway, and that is partly because of the fact that launching something so late at night really wasn't possible. I wasn't going to put my editor through that, and also getting it all done this quickly didn't give me a chance for decent analysis. So I went ahead and spent the night analysing it instead, and this video is with you now. As a result, we're going to be talking about everything in the video and we're going full-on spoilers. You have been warned. We're going to talk about all of this in full, so if you want to remain unspoiled, leave now. The new season is called Season of the Haunted, and I think one can best describe its aesthetic as, what if we smashed together Shadowkeep, Season of Opulence, and the Presage mission? Sign me up! Before we break down the trailer, there are definitely a few key things from the trailer's description and other places on the internet that kind of do help us go over what was really behind the trailer, and as a result I'm going to go ahead and cover those now. And yeah, let's start with the description on YouTube of the trailer, which gives us an overview of the season's narrative. Driven by an insatiable lust for power, Calus seeks the approval of a new master. His once opulent ship, now derelict and corrupted, has returned to our galaxy, its sights set on the power promised by the pyramid ship lying dormant on the moon. As the Leviathan forms a connection with the pyramid, nightmares of humanity's past awaken and threaten to torment any who dare to intervene. Stare into the abyss and find bravery within the mantle of the Reaper and the steel of the Scythe. The Reaper and Scythe thing is going to become much more literal, and you'll see why later in the video. This all but confirms that Calus is back in one form or another as a new disciple of the Witness, and that he's taken the Leviathan and is attempting to use it to harness the power of the nightmares on Luna, and to more specifically claim the Lunar Pyramid. We can even tell that the disciple term here is the correct terminology to use, given that the new Twitter ad for the trailer features the tagline, "The Leviathan returns with a familiar disciple, sever the nightmares in Season of the Haunted." So it's pretty much confirmed. We may have killed Rulk, the first disciple of the Witness, but other disciples are definitely still out there, seeking revenge on behalf of their Dark Master even as we speak. And it seems Calus has joined their ranks. But that's not all we learned. Check this out. Season of the Haunted's Bungie.net page was also revealed, as well as the press pack for the entire thing, images for which you've been seeing on screen as this video has been going on. From the Bungie.net page, we learn that the launch capabilities of the Helm are being brought into effect, which means that finally, it has happened, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard the Battlestar Galactica of Destiny. From here, we'll be able to start calling Zavala Helm Actual, because our new base of operations literally flies between the stars. Fantastic, and I think something we all anticipated given the way the Helm is structured. It looks like the bridge of a ship. It looks like a command deck. It was always going to fly. It was just a question of when. We also see from these images that the Crown of Sorrow has been recovered from aboard the Glycan and is in our possession, and that with the assistance of Keitel's Cabal, we're guarding it for a dark, dark purpose. The activities we're getting this season were also shown off. By the looks of it, we're going to be getting to experience Nightmare Containment, which is a larger group activity, and Sever, which is a series of weekly narrative missions. The interesting thing is really what else we learn about these activities from the press pack. The press pack implies that the Nightmare Containment activity is a public event, and that the nightmarish return of the Leviathan is presenting itself as a free roam activity destination hybrid. Something where you may be able to jump in and do something more specific, or something where you can free roam. The size of it is bound to be smaller and more compact than other destinations, and some of it will be ground that we're kind of retreading given that it is the Leviathan, but if it's a whole other destination, That's pretty awesome for a season, all things considered. The Nightmare Containment public event is also meant to be scalable according to certain parts of the press pack and Bungie.net, which tells me that it can be bumped up in difficulty and level as we take on stronger nightmares. Speaking of which, whilst narratively Nightmare Containment seems like it's more about dealing with the general fears of the Guardian populace, Sever, the weekly missions, have a much more personal set of ghosts to confront. According to the lore, Calus is essentially weaponizing the nightmares of the Lunar Pyramid, and every one that we face within the Leviathan is one that he's less likely to be able to turn against us, one that he will no longer be able to control if we're able to confront it. This brings us to our first major thing that I wanted to break down, which is the key art for the expansion, and it shows some of our major characters for the season altogether. We have Eris Morn up top above the Crown of Sorrow there, but more importantly, in the very center we have our three main characters, Empress Keitel, Commander Zavala, and the Crow. Now, notice this, each of them has a shadow that they seem to be interacting with, or at very least facing. I want you all to know now that these have relevance, and that they are shadows that specifically bind to the story of each character because of their past regrets and hauntings that they represent. Crow's might be obvious. Crow sees a ghost that looks all too familiar, a nightmare of his former self, Uldren Sov. Uldren is the one thing he fears and the greatest burden he carries. His nightmare is the things he's done in his past that he feels he needs to atone for and account himself for. Keitel sees the ghost of a familiar friend, the voice of her closest military advisor and former mentor that she heard aboard the Glycon is back. Umuna Wrath, primus of all legions and Keitel's tutor in war, is here to haunt the Empress, and her ghost represents not just a lost friend, but also failure for the Cabal generally, and every failure that Keitel will have to face as she fights to reclaim her home. Umuna Wrath represents the burden of Keitel's leadership, and the price of her failures. But most shockingly of all, I think, is the ghost on the right, with long waving hair that's facing Commander Zavala. This is nobody that we've met. This is, however, someone in the lore, and it's someone incredibly dear and important to the Commander. We've not seen them in-game, but we have read about them in a lore tab or two. We know enough about Commander Zavala to know that he has lost only one person he cares for in his entire life: his wife. Zavala married a mortal woman and saw her fall to the advances of time as best we can tell. This is the pain and struggle that every Guardian must face. Immortality is not kind on the front of love. To him, this shadow represents the one thing that Zavala can never truly do, which is to put down his mantle of battle and live a normal life with the people he loves. And from here, there are other bits and pieces from the press pack that I wanted to highlight before we get into that trailer. First off, from the characters section, we can see the presence of the Crown of Sorrow in the helm itself. This, again, is something we could see before from the key art, but what we can see is that it's laid out in a screen that implies that it's kind of our vendor for the season, or at very least some kind of thing that we will use to obtain upgrades and focused gear. It also seems to imply that we'll be using its power in a series of seances led by Eris. This is liable to be one of our main activities in Sever every week, as we connect with the nightmares and then forcibly silence them. There's some assets in the press pack that Martin's going to be showing off as I talk about all of this. Then we have to take a look at some of the gear that we get, namely this awesome looking armor, some of the coolest looking armor that I think Bungie's released in a while, which puts us all quite literally in the garb of the Reaper and has us wielding a massive scythe. This looks like it's going to be a seasonal relic, and it looks absolutely spectacular. I don't think this is going to be a glaive or something that sticks around. It seems to share the animation set for the big hammer of Middle Tree Titans, the Burning Maul, and assuming that that is the case, we're probably looking at something that isn't going to stick around past this seasonal activity in which we get to wield it. But either way, it's a pretty awesome add-on to the season, and if we do get something even vaguely close to it, Man, that's going to be fantastic to keep around. As was leaked a while back, Trespasser has been returned to Destiny, and it appears that the exotic sidearm from Rise of Iron that previously belonged to Shiro 4 is narratively acknowledging that it is indeed still tied to Shiro 4. Perhaps we can see him returning soon as well, although that's purely speculative. For those of you who don't know Shiro 4, by the way, Shiro 4 was a friend to Cayde 6, one of the original members of his posse of close hunters, including Andal Braskin himself, and also our main point of contact for the Siva crisis in Rise of Iron alongside Lord Saladin and Tyra Khan. We also got a look at returning Season of Opulence weapons, including Beloved, Austringer, the Baroque Drang, the Baroque Mida mini-tool, and a few new seasonal weapons that don't bear any resemblance to anything else. Exciting to see all of these because, well, there's a great deal of variation with them. There are a bunch of images of the Leviathan in the first story mission, and the free roam encounter of the Leviathan is also pictured, but I'm going to go ahead and leave those untouched, as there's nothing that immediately stands out with particular narrative reference and relevance, but it is something I'd want to leave for you all to see in the missions when you play them. So yeah, we're not going to touch on those just yet. Now though, at long last, we're going to pick up on the trailer, and I'm going to pick out a few key moments here, and we'll pause at each one. Here we get another look at Eris conducting a seance with us, Commander Zavala, and the Crow in tow. It goes full-on possession mode, with Eris literally being lifted up into the air, and we also see a dark artifact here glowing red. I wonder whether this is Eris's clutch, aka the Ahamkara bone that has always been referred to by the rest of us as her pet rock. Something that allows her to harness the powers of darkness, including the powers of stasis now, something that is infused with an Ahamkara's wish magic, and something that kept her alive in her tangle with Crota and the Brood on the Moon. Furthermore, it seems to be tangled up and glowing red now, and I wonder if this is a specific artifact that is of Eris's invention, or at least in Eris's possession, but it seems like it taps into the nightmare energies from the pyramid on Luna. Quick additional note on this little eldritch artifact thing that's used in all of the terrifying rituals that Eris is undertaking. Yeah, someone sent me something early in the morning just before I was about to go to bed after having recorded all of this. Yeah, that's not actually Eris's rock at all. That is the heart of the Touch of Malice. That's the Ravenous Heart. That is all that remains of Oryx, if that image is correct. So, yeah, this just got a whole lot more complicated. I have so many questions, and that is fascinating. Here we see Zavala, Crow, and Keitel all facing their respective nightmares, and again, there's that red artifact amongst each of them. I think it's clear that banishing these nightmares will be the focus of each week's Sever missions, and every week we are either going to be preparing for or conducting the exorcism of one of these nightmares. We see throughout the whole trailer as well that the Leviathan is also overrun by Scorn, who I think are probably the main foe of this expansion. They are clearly possessed by darkness and are clearly under Callus's command now. We also see that there are similar growths on the Leviathan to the ones that we saw on the Glycan, these kind of strange tentacle-like plants. This is actually something potentially of relevance because it tells us where the Leviathan might well have been, which is, well, in the company of the Witness and down into what was described as the anomaly with regards to the Glycan. It's been to the darkness dimension that the Witness maintains. These plants also tend to grow out of death, which means that more often than not only have they been brought there because of the presence of the Witness, but they'll also feed on anything there that has died. And it makes me wonder, was there anyone aboard the Leviathan when it was used? If so, that has terrifying potential. We still don't fully understand those growths, and perhaps more importantly, we still don't understand everything to do with them, but it's, well, they're never a good sign. It's a little bit like seeing a corpse that's been chewed on by a zombie. You know, it's telling. Finally, I want to draw your attention to this moment in the trailer. As we can see here on the right, Eris is standing there, but there is glowing green energy that seems to be flying up to the red maw of the Leviathan here. It's a smaller detail, but I wonder if it holds any significance of any kind. The green pulsating energy is something that generally seems to come from the cracks on Luna, which were formed as a result of Crota sort of smashing it and leaving those scars permanently on the moon. Those scars seep upwards from the hive below and contain some of their energy, but it's questionable whether that is the same interaction or whether it's just some kind of ominous nonsense that's going on the moon. I don't know if there is more to it, but it's worth remembering that in these last few moments, Eris also does say that this is the beginning of the end. I don't know what's going on with that, but that's a pretty ominous and final sentence, and I do wonder if this leads us some ways towards the plot of Lightfall. Remember, everything now is beginning to build up to that next expansion. Witch Queen is over, and Lightfall is about to begin. And so everything we're doing is now the prelude to Lightfall. And I, for one, am very excited to see where that takes us. So that's been the breakdown of everything to do with the Season of the Haunted. I'll be playing Day 1 on stream with Barbaric Ham on his Twitch stream. That's twitch.tv/barbaricham. That'll be linked down below. I'll have more content this week as time progresses too. There will be a lot to talk about inevitably, and yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do probably the first impressions of the season video tomorrow so that we can keep content rolling, and from there it'll be more specific lore stuff going forward. St. Jude charity stream that I'm doing is going to be live on the 6th of June at 12 PM Eastern Standard Time. Please go ahead and show up, I'd greatly appreciate that. Help us support the kids at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and help us raise money for the GCX charity stream. As per usual, you guys understand that that's a really important part of the year, and we always do it. Very, very happy to do so as well. So, many thanks on that front. But as per usual, know that your viewership is quite enough for me. I will see you all in the new season. And my name is Byf. Per audacia ad astra. I'll see you, Starside.